Nightingale was taken down the stairs to the street, handcuffed to a burly constable wearing a bright yellow fluorescent jacket over a bulletproof vest. Nightingale had pulled on black jeans, a blue pullover and a leather jacket, but had forgotten to pick up his cigarettes and lighter from the bedside table. "Don't suppose you've got a cigarette on you?" he asked the cop. "Filthy habit," grinned the man, pulling open the side door of the police van. It was a grey Mercedes Sprinter van with TSG markings, the Territorial Support Group, the Met's heavy mob. Behind it were two blue saloons. Armed cops were stowing their gear into the boots. "Yeah? Well, it's not as disgusting as breaking into people's homes at the crack of dawn," said Nightingale. The cop climbed into the van and jerked the handcuffs to pull Nightingale inside. There were two armed police officers in black overalls, bulletproof vests and Kevlar helmets sitting at the back, cradling MP5s. Nightingale grinned and waved with his free hand. "Expecting trouble, boys?" he said as he sat down. The two men stared at him impassively. More armed officers were piling into the back of a Volvo B70 armed response vehicle as the driver turned on the siren and flashing lights. Curtains and blinds all the way down the street began to twitch. Nightingale looked at the cop sitting next to him. "This isn't going to win you friends, you know that," he said. "Most people have got jobs to go to." Chalmers walked out of Nightingale's building and nodded at the driver of the van as he got into the back of a black Vauxhall Vectra. The driver put the van in gear and followed the ARV down the street. Chalmers pulled out behind them. They drove in convoy south to the Thames and over Vauxhall Bridge towards Stockwell. Eventually, they pulled up in front of the main entrance of Lambeth Hospital. Chalmers got out of the Vauxhall and went over to talk to the men in the ARV, then the Volvo peeled away from the curb and sped off back to North London. Chalmers walked over to the van. A stick-thin cop with ginger hair and freckles across his nose and cheeks pulled open the side door. "Out you get," he growled at Nightingale. Nightingale and the constable climbed out. Nightingale held up his handcuffed wrist. "There's no need for this, Chalmers. I'm hardly likely to do a runner, am I?" Chalmers said nothing. He turned on his heel and walked inside the hospital. Nightingale and the cop followed him. Heads turned to look at them as they strode across the reception area to a bank of lifts. They rode up in silence to the 4th floor, the intensive care unit. They walked down a corridor lined with glass panels that looked into small rooms where patients, mainly elderly, were attached to machines that were either monitoring them or keeping them alive. The doctors and nurses paid the police no attention, and there was a purposeful buzz of conversation overlaid with the beeping of sensors. "Are you going to tell me what's going on, Chalmers?" asked Nightingale, but the superintendent ignored him. Nightingale grinned at the cop. "Maybe his wife's giving birth, and he wants me to be the godfather," he said. The cop scowled but said nothing. At the far end of the corridor was a young constable sitting on a chair reading a newspaper. He looked up, saw Chalmers approaching, and hurriedly got to his feet, hiding the paper behind his back. Chalmers brushed past the man and opened the door to the room. He walked in and jerked his thumb at Nightingale. "In," he said. Nightingale went through first, followed by the cop he was handcuffed to. The man lying on the hospital bed in front of him was Afro-Caribbean and in his late 20s. There were wires leading from his chest to a heart monitor that was beeping softly at the side of the bed. His head was bandaged, covering his skull and one eye. The uncovered eye was shut. "You know him?" asked Chalmers. Nightingale shrugged. "Hard to say, looking like that." "Dwayne Robinson," said Chalmers. "Gangbanger from Brixton. Someone shot him in the back of the head 6 months ago. He's been in a coma ever since." "And this concerns me how?" "Where were you on July the 20th? Nightingale laughed. "Are you serious? How would I know? Who knows what they were doing 6 months ago?"